Hey guys, I wanted to come to you real quick and give you a little bit of an intro on a video that's somewhat different than the normal videos that we do. This is a video that's a cross-platform content. You'll be able to find this also on thelittlebigchurch.com. But we felt like with the bad energy content that we recently did on the Soul Trap, that this video would fit exactly what we wanted it to do. The audio is not great. It was actually recorded on the campus of University of South Florida in Sarasota, Florida. But though the audio isn't great, the content is very important. Obviously, they may have some themes that are a little bit different than we normally do on the Soul Trap, but I think it's deeply connected. More than ever, I think physical health is an important part of the reality in which we live. And I believe, just like JFK Jr. and others, that there is an intentional, concerted effort, not just to undermine us mentally and spiritually, but to undermine us physically. We hope you enjoyed this video. Forgive the content if the audio isn't perfect, if the video gets a little out of whack. You'll understand seeing that it was shot on campus at the time. But we think you're going to be able to glean a lot from it, and we look forward to your feedback and hearing from you. Please enjoy this video, and hopefully it'll help you find better health and better mental clarity. Welcome to this episode of The Little Big Church. We are here with Dr. Baker, and we are on the South Campus in Sarasota of University of South Florida, a major medical research center. And I'm an alumni, and the camera operator, my wife, is an alumni, and of course Dr. Baker is as well. We are very honored to have you here for the discussion.
Happy to be
We
here.
have to stop and start with all the yard work going on, but we will persevere and survive. So we're going to be discussing a lot of different things on this particular show, but let's start with give us just a little bit of your background as far as how you got into medicine,
Yes.
what your medical credentials are, and you mentioned something the other day about learning or how you moved on. So how did you get into the medical field, and then what are your credentials and what have you learned since then?
I got into the medical field straight out of high school. And if you would ask my family, they would tell you from 4 or 5 years of age, I wanted to be a doctor, a nurse, anything in medicine. It was always my bent. And when they made you do tests in elementary school of what would you be good at when you're older, I always got, you'll be in the medical field. So it's been a bent. So it was a calling from the get. I went to, it used to be Manatee Community College. It's now South College of Florida. I received my RN from there. That's an associate's degree. Then I transferred to USF. I got my bachelor's degree, and this was all in registered nursing.
Okay.
I went straight into working at the hospitals. I was 20 when I started working in hospitals. So it was very early on. And then I got a little spur under my saddle about I need more education. I got to keep going. So I ended up going to Florida State University to get my doctoral degree. My doctoral degree is in family medicine as a nurse practitioner. And that's essentially, it's a bridge program. It's, you have a lot of experience working 7-10 years at the bedside. And so we want to take that and then move it into the doctoral field as a nurse practitioner. So I am a doctor of nursing practice in family medicine.
Okay.
Head to toe, birth to death, all of it.
You've seen a little bit of it all.
Yes.
Okay. So for full disclosure, you've been my doctor.
Yes.
Now you're home.
Yeah.
Tell us about the home life. What was the one thing that brought you out of practicing medicine full time?
Having a baby.
Having a baby.
Once it's handed to you, the drive of education and further learning and, I want to be the best at my career field suddenly shifts over into, well, now I want to be the best at being a mom, and I want to be the best at taking care of this baby and the health of this child. And that's where I really started veering off of
Yeah.
the,
So you got 3 now.
yes, 3 now, 1 on the way.
3 now, 1 on the way.
Yes.
And
It's wonderful.
it's wonderful.
It's wonderful.
really
I'm very happy to be home.
So we started talking really before we came on camera. You were my doctor, helped me along with my wife start down the journey of getting in shape. I think the first time I came to you, I had gout.
Yes.
And the second time I came to you, I had like third or fourth time.
It was recurrent.
Yeah, blood sugar off the charts. Everything that a Baptist pastor is supposed to do, and I joked about it.
We joke about it.
We joke about it a lot, and all of that. But it started really breaking me down. I started getting a little bit medically right. And then my daughter is a physical fitness instructor, a certified physical fitness instructor. She started getting us in the gym, and then she got us involved in a nutrition program. And that was the game changer. I mean, between you on one side, my wife on the other, and then my daughter going, okay, try this nutrition program. I was going to the gym. We were going to the gym for about a year, and I had lost maybe a little bit of weight, but it was always a fluctuating kind of a
Sure.
Losing a little bit of weight, trying keto, South Beach, Mediterranean, Philadelphian, Guatemalan, whatever it was. I'd try anything there. Didn't lose a whole lot of weight. And then once we went on the nutrition plan, it changed. I think I've lost about 50 pounds is what it's down to. And I'm still losing weight and putting on muscle, which is a rare thing to do at my age, really at any age. So there is a big component to nutrition. And one of the reasons we're talking, because I think a lot of guys out there, a lot of churches, a lot of pastors' wives, it's almost been sort of pushed to the back. You deal with your spirit first, you deal with your emotions, and then around 60, when things start really going south, we pay attention to the body.
Yes, too late.
Why should we, from a 35,000 foot view, why should we be more conscious of what our body's doing, what it's telling us? What are we missing by just pushing that to the back and going, I'll get to it when I can?
Well, I think part of the problem is we're not paying any attention whatsoever. So to say, well, how should we be thinking about our health? You're really not until there's a problem, until somebody has a heart attack or a stroke. And then all of a sudden we've got a major problem. And now we're trying to backpedal and change decades of habits. When we're young, childhood, we eat whatever we want. There's seemingly no consequences, and parents will say, I'm going to go on a diet, but it's not fair to do that to my kids. And then you get into the teen years and you're kind of in charge of your own food. Well, whatever habitually you did as a child, now you're doing the same thing in teenage years. Again, seemingly no consequences into young adulthood. And then you hit middle age and you've never even once thought about the things that you eat, and how they're affecting you. And you've lived in a constant state of flux. I have good days and bad days. Sometimes I sleep good, sometimes I don't. And we kind of think, well, that's just kind of the process of life. And in a lot of ways it is. Yeah. But we also don't think about, what was the pattern there? Why didn't I sleep well last night?
What's the underlying?
Yeah. Why did I seem so off? Why was I irritable yesterday? My spouse or my wife said something. And so again, you're not actively thinking about it, and you should be. You actively think about what you're going to put in your vehicle to get it to drive. And you actively think about even your dogs. I want to give my dogs good, healthy food. But you gave your child Fruit Loops for breakfast. So
nice.
There's just not a focus on it because it's too easy not to. And there's not a problem for long periods of time until all of a sudden it's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but one of the things that does happen is maybe even extends that I can get away with it, is that when something's going south, we can take medicine for it. So we're actually changing the underlying cause. We just take medicine.
For sure.
So, there's the phrase, no new thing under the sun, right? We know the Bible talks about that. There's always been spiritual dilemmas, warfare, struggle. But I said to you before we went on camera, I think that the spiritual nature of what we're dealing with is presenting itself, manifesting itself more in mental health and physical health than it ever has before. Mental and physical health. I'm finding in counseling that is a huge issue, more than I ever thought. I mean, let me be honest with you, Doc. Somebody comes to me and, hey, I got a problem. Okay, read your Bible, pray, go to church. And I'm not discounting that. You always have to have the spiritual element. But mental, physical, they're not sleeping well. They're on medications. They're not eating well. And there's no way to fix that with more Bible reading. Can you explain how the physiological health is going to affect emotions and so many other those things in our life that maybe we're interpreting as spiritual, but really it's a physiological, biological reaction?
So if you take into account an example of, childhood irritability, they didn't get good sleep, I didn't get good sleep, your husband asks you, why are you so cranky today? And you're like, well, you didn't make the bed and you didn't do this. And those emotions are not just feelings of the heart. That's not really tangible. Actual brainwave activity, you can see it on PET imaging, MRI imaging. When they do scans looking at the brain and they've given somebody junk food versus high protein, low carb, whole foods, you can see physical changes in how your brain is processing external stimuli. So if we talk about childhood traumas, of course, there's tons of external stimuli that are going to come in.
Right.
But if you can physically see on imaging, this person's brain literally took all of that into account and came out with a completely different answer for what's happening, what should I do in this situation, I'm fight or flight, I'm just irritable and I'm on it.
Right.
Versus this person who high protein, low carb, no junk food, no dyes, no added. When this person experiences the same stimuli, their brain remains calm. They're able to use their frontal lobe for judgment. They slow down. They're not in this hyper state of I've got to give an answer. I've got to give an answer.
Right.
So in nutrition, in exercise, in all of that, when somebody comes to you and says, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, and we say, listen, when you're anxious, I would love for you to just go for a run, go for a walk. They think we're just trying to distract them. We're just trying to distract you from your problem. Yes. And that's not at all the case. We're trying to literally change neurotransmitters and what they're doing and signaling to your brain and how you're then responding from that stimuli to the output.
Okay. So Dale Lively says at his training center, he says you can't fix spiritual problems in the gym, but you can't fix physical problems sometimes in the church. If somebody was sitting with me and they said, yeah, I'm smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, I pack a cigarette a day. So no amount of Bible is going to fix that. That's a physical problem that you're creating. So what you're saying is that some of these things that are coming into our office, and we're getting very narrow now as a pastor's, a counselor, pastor's wife, counseling. We talk about ladies, and many pastors' wives do on-the-go counsel. It's not even a scheduled thing. You're standing in the parking lot, and a lady just unloads on you. And you're like, oh, man, what do I tell them? It's almost as if the last thing we would ever say is what's your sleep like, what's your nutrition like, what's your exercise like. But that's almost one of those things where some of this stuff that's anxiety, we just talked with somebody the other day, reading their Bible every day, praying every day, going to church 3 times a week. I mean, all those boxes were checked, and yet they were stressed, upset, unhappy. And we're sitting there kind of looking at each other going, well, there's some signs that this might be physical and biological. So it seems like we really missed the connection between mental health and physical health.
And they may be doing those things, having just eaten super high carb breakfast, and now they've gotten through half of a chapter of in the Bible, and they're already getting sluggish from the crash, and they feel like they're not getting anything from the reading, and now they're thinking about something else. They have a hard time focusing, and many of those things can be improved by how you woke up. Did you wake up rushed and my alarm went off and I didn't sleep well? Then I didn't eat well. Then I just pounded an espresso and now I'm going to sit down and read my Bible.
Yeah.
Well, you're probably not going to get as much from that as if you had woken up, maybe done 20, 30 minutes of exercise, had a nice breakfast, have some coffee, and sit down and read your Bible. So you can be doing all those things, but because you have not prepped the body to be able to sit down and focus on what you're doing, prayer, reading, then how's the Lord supposed to get through all that chaos that you've just ensued on yourself?
Yeah, we've almost taken that physical aspect of it and just kind of, that's just, it doesn't matter. That's a no-go. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But we don't realize how profoundly that is affecting us as we're doing that. So deep dive with us a little bit. So everything is a hack. Everything is a hack today. But what's happening at the cellular level? What's happening? Because here's what I'm finding in my own study, in my own journey into nutrition. I told you the other day, I'm working on becoming a certified nutritionist. I think that's an important role. Not that I want to be an expert in that field, but I want to understand more what's happening to my people. So one of the things I'm finding in this process is that it's, we're so trained for just calorie intake or hacks. You can do keto, which means you can eat as much as you want. It's bacon and, that kind of stuff like that. But what is actually happening at a cellular level, people are unaware of, and it's actually creating long-term damage. Walk us through, in layman's terms, what's happening at the cellular level when somebody reaches over and grabs, they eat a crustless pizza or chocolate or something like that, versus eating your vegetables, fruits, more of a nutrient dense. What's happening not on the scale? I think that's where everybody's looking.
For sure. I'm a close fit.
Yeah, right. But what's happening at the cellular level?
That's deep.
As much as we
can. At a cellular level, if somebody's going to reach for a crustless pizza, it seems like I'm making a health conscious decision. But if you don't know all of the nutrients, minerals, vitamins that are in what you're eating and why you would need vitamins, nutrients, minerals, then it's almost like, well, all I'm going to do is count calories. Well, for the most part, at a cellular level, your body doesn't care about calories. It cares about nutrients. I need you to fill me with something that I can make fuel from. You can fill up your gas tank with water and the tank is going to stay full, but that car is not going to run. So
great illustration. Okay.
You are calorie full, but you are nutrient starving. So I eat, I feel full. My crustless pizza was delicious. I'm
peanut butter,
whatever. I'm satisfied. Your body takes that in and it starts to break it down. There's nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. I can't use this. So an hour later, 2 hours later, I'm hungry again.
So can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Question? So when your body is taking that and it looks at that and it says, I can't use that, that then becomes basically a garbage.
It's a problem because now it has to decide, do I store this or do I figure out a way to eliminate this? And if I store it, how am I going to store it? Am I going to store it as fat? Am I going to store it as glycogen in the liver? Or does it end up becoming basically these built up toxins that we start testing people for? And we're like, oh my goodness, you've got all these chemicals in your body that don't belong there, but your body doesn't have any idea how to get rid of it and what to do with it. So now all of that trash is just ruminating through your body. And we're still asking our bodies to run at peak optimum health. And it just can't do it.
So when you talk about glycogen, the liver, I just read about that. And then fat storage. It's my understanding, again, I'm not the expert you are, but in just the recent reading that I've been doing, that we're seeing things that we've never seen before with like fatty livers. That used to be the alcoholics issue.
That's right.
We're seeing that, glycogen, these kind of things that we've never seen before.
We're seeing it in teenagers. Fatty liver disease in a teenager should be 0%. It should never happen. And again, like you pointed out, fatty liver disease used to be labeled alcoholic fatty liver. There was no such thing as non-alcoholic fatty liver until these people started seeing their doctors getting imaging and they're like, your liver's huge. Why? How much alcohol are you drinking? I don't drink. Well, then what on earth is happening to your liver? It's storing fat all around it from the garbage processed foods that we eat.
And the toxins. So is that one of those things you hear something today again, and we're going to talk about a few of these different things, but you hear to me, and this is really a conversation you and I had a while back, I think you're hearing a lot more catch-all
Mhm.
phrases like that's autoimmune. If I talk with anybody, my wife and I were just counseling, and we've seen this many times. You'll be counseling someone, so I've got this autoimmune condition, this and that. So you're looking at the person, and I don't say this from a judgmental. I'm new to this space. I'm new to growing in this area, but it's like, yeah, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. When I was diagnosed with psoriasis. When I changed my nutrition and my diet, it literally, I haven't had a problem with that at all. I'm not saying it can't come back tomorrow, but they just wanted to put me on medication. The doctor didn't even ask about my diet, my nutrition, nothing. You've got this medication will take care of it. So I'm not trying to throw the medical field, obviously, under the bus, but there seems to be some of these catch-all diagnoses that maybe is a response to the inability to get people to change their nutrition. Is that something?
Well, it is an inability to get them to change because it's very hard to create long-lasting change in someone who hasn't decided definitively, this food is literally killing me. The autoimmune catch-all.
And I'm sorry, what you just said is a profound statement. I think, especially for this content that we're doing with creatures and with people in ministry, you just said, this food is killing me. My wife said something to me very profound a couple of weeks ago that stayed with me, because I was kind of questioning, are you just being egocentric about working out? Is this because I can get passionate about it? When I start getting passionate about something, if I like peanut butter, I really like peanut butter, still do. But she said, well, Spurgeon died at 56, arguably the greatest preacher that's ever lived. He was very overweight, battled with gout, depression. We don't know, chicken or the egg, what came first. What if you could have added 10 years to his life? What would the world be like?
Yeah, that is perfect.
And I'm thinking about preachers that are out there, their children, their grandchildren, their ministries. And you just said the food we're eating is killing us.
Literally. Yes. And you and I had a conversation with Christy one night. I think it was just prior, maybe just after a service, where your physical health and your mental health were coming to a crossroads.
Yes.
And I think that was a profound moment for you.
That's right when we were having the big lawsuit and all that.
Yeah. So there was obviously a lot going on at that point, and you could tell that it hit you that I'm in my 40s and I could literally have a heart attack and leave my people.
Right.
That's and as much as I want to say you bring in another pastor, we can, but we love you, and ultimately these are your sheep, and if a shepherd dies, what happens to his sheep?
The example, right? The example that you're setting for the whole thing.
Yeah, feed my sheep, literally.
Okay, Okay, so it's serious.
Yes.
So then let me pivot back to what you were talking about, the autoimmune, this catch-all.
Yes. So part of that catch-all is doctors saying, I don't know. And it sounds scientific to say, well, it appears that you have an autoimmune condition. Because the problem with doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs, whatever you want to say, medical providers, is we go through a lot of college. You spend a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
And then you come out and somebody asks you a question and you don't really know the answer. And you think, well, I can't not know an answer. I've got to tell them something. So you order all this blood work and all this imaging, and you still kind of don't have an answer. And they say, well, I was Googling. And you're like, I'm the doctor. Your Google degree does not mean anything. But unfortunately nowadays it does mean something. So, but anyway, so these symptoms, and I call them a constellation of symptoms. Somebody will come in and they've got a skin problem, a digestive problem. I'm having headaches, vision issues. My muscles tingle sometimes. I'm having neuropathy. So you've got this spread of symptoms. And you're like, well, that doesn't fit anything. So you say, well, it's autoimmune. Your immune system's everywhere and it's attacking everything. So we're going to get these biomarkers to see if you possibly have an autoimmune disease. This is not to say that there aren't people with, rheumatoid arthritis who clearly in their blood work show that, but we use these very general, we even call them non-specific autoimmune markers that are really just looking for inflammation. And we say, there it is. You have inflammation. There is an underlying autoimmune condition, and here's some of the things that you can do. Ultimately, you need to see a rheumatologist. You're going to be on medications that destroy your immune system so that it stops attacking your body, and off they go. And so
let's deep dive that immune system, what you just said. Why is it, in layman's terms, why is the immune system attacking the body and causing that inflammation? Is it possible that it's connected back to what you were talking about as far as the garbage, the things that are in there?
Well, so I think we're getting maybe again chicken or the egg. We're saying you have a condition that has nothing to do with you or what you're doing. It's just genetic. You just have it. That's destroying your body's cells. Or could it be that everything that you are doing is destroying your body's cells? And that's why we're seeing all these symptoms, but we're somehow blaming it on the immune system because your immune system is in overdrive trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with this?
Okay, so for us listening, for the layman, the issue is either you have an underlying condition that is destroying the cells, or you are doing something that is destroying the cells.
Right.
That is then causing
all these symptoms.
Other symptoms.
The psoriasis, the joint pain.
What we are is a collection of cells.
100%. You go from the macro to the micro. Right. You are you. You have your integumentary or your skin system, respiratory system, cardiac system.
Digestive system.
That's right. And then you go down to the organ itself, the heart muscle, the heart itself. Then you go down to the cellular level, every single myocardial cell of the heart.
Level.
And then you go and then now you've got the nucleus of the cell and the mitochondria of the cell. And what science is trying to find is it's trying to battle many other forces, big pharma, big food, and we're trying to figure out why are cells being destroyed? Why is there myocarditis with certain viruses? Why do some people, though we all have cancer cells daily that flow through our bodies, why do some people end up with a full-on cancer that we're now having to treat, but some people don't? And based on that, how can we then figure out something that we can do to change it? But you're not telling them way ahead of time. You probably could have prevented all that by having never gone down that road to begin with.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up cancer. My wife is a cancer survivor, you know that. And her health was always, I think she was always health conscious coming out of that. But in all the times in all the surgeries and all the chemo and all the times, I don't think that real nutrition was ever really brought up to us.
I'll tell you why.
Okay. I think I know where you're going.
I have two reasons why, two big reasons.
Why is it?
One is because it's not taught. I had one nutrition class. It was in undergrad.
How many years of school have you had?
I had 9 years of college.
Okay.
I took one course on nutrition. Never touched it again.
Wow.
Never touched it again. And I don't know why doctors don't want to admit that. I'm sure it's pride. It's just a pride thing, but you don't want to admit, I really don't know what chelated magnesium versus methylated versus, I don't really know what that means.
So I got a question on that. You said 2 reasons. We'll go back to that second.
Okay.
But I have a question on that. Is there just a lot of pharmaceutical money flowing into the medical industry? And it's like, money talks. It just does.
I want to say, and you can, I'm sure your people will fact check me, but I want to say around 80% of NIH, that's our National Institutes of Health, our biggest organization for medical research, about 80% of it is funded by big pharma. So you have zero incentive to fund or give somebody a grant to do research on carnivore, ketovore, and any of those, we'll call them fad diets, but anything pertaining to nutrition, you have zero reason to give those people grants versus the people that want grants for, I want to study this medication for this disease. I want to study this, these biologic medications for a different disease process. Fantastic. You will make us more money if you can prove that our medication will also solve this problem.
So there's more money.
So the money is flowing from pharma to the medical industry, specifically in research, college research. And again, this stuff it's very expensive to do research. You've got to hire people to read case studies and go through statistical data, and you're hiring a mathematician, and these people want to be paid, and you are not getting a grant to do something that is not going to benefit big pharma.
So you're not going to get a grant to say eat more carrots.
No, you are not. No.
Okay. You said the first reason, and then I probably distracted people. What would you say?
My second reason is money. Money.
So I was looking at the right way. Yeah. So let's get a little bit more particular. I don't want to be controversial.
Let's do it.
That's the way we do. That's the way we roll. I remember years ago, I would say in the 90s, it really hit hard, early 2000s, 90s. Everybody was ADHD. Every child that disobeyed mom and dad, their ADHD, whatever, all the different variations. Everybody that was this or that. Before that, I remember Scott Peck wrote a book. Before that, it was depression, and it was because of his parents and that kind of stuff. So there's been all right and on. To me, one of the things I've noticed in counseling, in ministering, is the new, and I'm not going to say there's not this, but the new thing is autism. There was a guy one time, a young guy, and he was like, yeah, well, I'm diagnosed with autism. And I remember thinking in the back of my mind, when I was growing up, we just called you a dork.
Or dweeb.
You're gonna go to college, make a lot of money, and probably working. You were just kind of dorky. That's the way that it is. But now he goes to the doctor and he's diagnosed with autism. So much so that there's an actual TV show where the doctor is autistic, and we're working all around that. Anytime you say spectrum, that kind of concerns me, because I feel like you can somehow, some way get put on the spectrum.
Sure.
And then people love, I think, a diagnosis because it alleviates any personal responsibility.
Yes.
I know I'm going a long way and I'm brushing with a broad stroke, but when you diagnose me as, whatever, look, the reason I have gout is because I'm eating too many glazed donuts. It's me.
Yes.
I have a pre-exposure genetically maybe in there, but I haven't had a problem with gout. Somebody asked me about my sugar the other day, and I was like, I don't even check my sugar anymore. It's not even a thing.
Right. Doesn't have to be now.
I don't even think about that. Tell us about autism, because one of the things that's weird is the spike of this whole thing really has come in the same time with our medications and our food and the whole thing.
The problem with autism is, do you go down is this medically induced, vaccinations, that's a whole thing. Is this food additives, food dyes? Is it a combination of the two? Are there other external factors that could be a problem? We know for some reason that C-section babies have a higher rate of autism than, a natural delivery. Why is that? Was there trauma? So there's a lot of ways that can go. When you look at autism, the studies that are done, first of all, the question is, do we have more autism? Are we screening better? So now we're finding it sooner. Those dweebs probably had autism. Or is it that, no, that all of that is the same. The testing's the same. It's just we're having more of it. What is happening?
Right.
Many people that have autism, if their children come to you, they'll say, he has a thing about he only wants to eat chicken nuggets, mac and cheese. I've yet to meet an autistic child that did not love chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, popsicles, all of that.
So sitting right here, I have autism.
I knew it. I knew it. Maybe we're just awkward. So that's fascinating. So then they take these children and put them on, and they do many studies in the UK. They've done both in video recordings, in parental research, parental surveys, and they'll say, wow, when I took all of that processed food away from my autistic child who is slamming his head into walls, who's screaming, who can't sit in front of, all of a sudden I put them on no processed foods, only whole foods, and their symptoms are basically gone. But I can't reverse it. There's still something there, but I can control them better now. So autistic spectrum disorder has gone from these really extreme cases where, again, you'll see a child physically harming themselves. They cannot control anything that they're doing, to now, a college student who says, I walk into campus and I feel really awkward and I don't want to talk to anybody. And it's like, oh, well, you might have autism. Right. Or it's just really hard to walk into a room full of strangers and you're 5 minutes late and they're looking at you like, where you been, buddy? Sit down, go find a seat somewhere. And nobody likes that feeling. So again, like you said, it's an easy way to say you either weren't taught or have not figured out ways to compensate for maybe some social awkwardness, because not everybody is meant to be a social butterfly. Some people are just really difficult to talk to and they're super duper smart. Yeah. And that's okay. So, but that doesn't make you autistic.
Well, exactly. So,
but doctors also feel like if somebody comes to your office and they have a list of their concerns and their symptoms, you feel this pressure to give them a diagnosis. Well, all of that, you hate to walk away and say, listen, dude, you're just kind of dorky.
Yes,
and that's okay.
Yes, right.
They want to, they feel such pressure to give an answer that they then maybe give an answer that doesn't belong.
Yeah. And, or from what I'm hearing too, that they're being trained.
Yeah.
Source that they're hearing it, and that this is what it is. This, it kind of gets into the zeitgeist of everybody's thinking.
Yeah. But they also just teach you, depression, anxiety, and we don't have to get off of autism, but okay, for autism spectrum disorder, I don't draw your blood and say, oh, you have autism, the way that I would draw your blood and say, you have diabetes.
Right. Well,
so you're given this paper and it says, check these boxes. Do you have any of these? And then rate it 0 to 5. Well, first of all, self scales are notoriously biased and wrong.
Yeah.
You the same way you think you're eating few calories is the same way you think your symptoms are just off the chain. So this person then scales themselves, and now you have evidence, paper evidence, that they have all these symptoms of what the DSM says is autism. So what am I supposed to do with that? Okay, well, you have autism, but because you have a job, you have friends, you have family, you're able to do adult life, you're just really low on the spectrum.
Right. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. It's interesting. There's a book, Dr. Sales, I can't pronounce, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but it's called The Myth of Mental Illness. And it talks about depression, anxiety, these different things. And one of the things that stood out to me is it's the only field where basically it is a self-diagnosed driven reality.
Yes.
Now, and as he talks in there, even the new testing and the data that they do on depression and anxiety, they'll hand you that. It's still all being collated from what people are telling them. They get enough people tell them this is what it is, and okay, this is what it is. But that's not the way, and that's why there's such a drive for it to be medicalized, is the term he uses. And so it feels like it's that we're medicalizing bad nutrition. We're medicalizing doom scrolling. We're medicalizing a lack of sleep. And then when you put the money of big pharma in there, then here's a pill that will help you, that kind of thing. For us in ministry, which is where we're orbiting around this, we this is not a worldly thing. 80% of our people, 90% of our people in the church are in some way, shape, form, or another being touched by this. They're living in that, and then they're bringing that culture into the church. And here's, Doc, where I think it translates. They're bringing that into the church, and they're basically victimized in their life, in their health, and in their emotions, and then spiritually they're likewise victimized. Rather than going, no, you have to take personal responsibility for what you're doing. Now, like I said, I knew this space.
Well, that's because you have somebody that has doctor in front of their name saying you have this medical diagnosis, and that's why you're doing whatever sin it is that you're doing, whether that's sin of self, you just constantly focus on yourself and everything that's going bad with you, or whatever it may be. And then you go to your pastor, who you view as just a dumb blockhead, who happens to know a lot about the Bible but zero about anything else.
That's true.
So who's saying, no, mental health, that's not really a thing. And they're just like, no, my doctor says that it is. Well, you end up elevating that doctor title over your pastor, and the Bible warns us about science. And so, right. And so again, you end up with, do I believe my doctor or do I believe my pastor? I'm going to take my medication and then go read my Bible.
Or I'm going to eat the way that I want to eat. I mean, there's a lot, I'm going to live the way that I want to live. There's a lot of, I think, intimacy problems. Couples come in as a pastor, they're struggling, and you almost feel hamstrung because the questions that you should be asking to help, you don't. Well, we're struggling. Well, you need to go love your wife as Christ loved the church, and you need to submit. You both need to read your Bible, and blah, 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 blah. And again, I don't want to belittle those things.
Right.
But what your sleep habits like, what your eating habits like, sometimes you can tell physically they're not healthy. Not only that, but I do think there's something too. I don't care what anybody says. If you don't feel good about yourself, that affects you. Everybody says, I don't care what I look like. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do. You wouldn't have a mirror in your home.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all of those things come into it, and you're exactly right. I think a lot of pastors today, we're not getting told that. Just like you were talking about doctors not getting taught nutrition, we're not being told anything about the body. Even though the definition is a tripartite. We are spirit, soul, body.
Yes.
But we're not being told anything about the body at all. Even just to having a general awareness that, we talked, my wife and I, a couple of weeks ago, talked with somebody, a young person. They came in and said, I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. I feel like I'm losing my faith. I can't keep faith. Well, what's going on? Tell us. And we started with the physical and worked our way back. Well, I'm taking Ambien every night. And it's sometimes if I don't do that, then I'm taking that other medication. And then during the day, I'm drinking, I think it's like four Red Bulls or 4 Monster drinks, energy drinks a day. I'm working and then working out a lot. And then blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, well, the answer is you are tired. That's the answer.
Yes, every part of your body is
not designed.
No.
That's what we used to call uppers and downers.
You're doing uppers and downers. That's it. Yes.
Your body's
Chase
not
the dog.
designed to live off of Red Bull. So I think initially, you're like, man, it's I could give you more Bible to read, but you're not even processing
Right.
what you're reading. And I think that there needs to be resources where, pastors need to do some base level study, or at least be able to go, man, nutrition plays a big role.
Well, and even knowing, that the food additives, the dyes, the pesticides, like all of these things are actually, by research that is buried, shown to affect your brain in such a way that you almost can't overcome the spiritual problems that you're talking about. I don't know why I'm so mean to my husband. I don't know why I'm so irritable with my children. I don't know why. But everything that you are fueling yourself with, if I'm fueling my spirit with prayer and God's word, and I can't separate my spirit from my body, you're fueling yourself with absolute trash and garbage and expecting the spirit to just overcome that, and it can't.
That is so true, because William Booth and anybody who has ever run a crisis intervention for drugs or alcohol, that treatment, you cannot bring people in hooked on drugs, hooked on alcohol, and really give them the gospel. You have to clean them up, get their mind, get them some food. You have to clear the cobwebs from their mind a little bit before they can even process what's happening. Now, that is the extreme case. But listen, the other day, it's true. It's like, I hear that all the time. I'm reading my Bible, I'm praying, I'm coming to church. I'm still moody, I'm still upset. My wife's still getting along. And what happens is, I think a lot of pastors, we get doubtful, like, either you're lying, well, no, I'm not. Well, then what's wrong?
Right. Maybe what I'm telling them isn't right.
Your body is so powerful. Mm-hmm. It's dictating. It is dictating to your soul, your emotions, what's happening.
Yeah. It's in a way quenching the spirit. It's trying to overcome, and it just can't.
And listen, I understand we're not all going to be, American ninjas doing this.
No.
But the Bible does clearly say that our body is the temple of the Lord. Mm-hmm. The bodies of the sacrifice. Mm-hmm. If we could all move on the side of a mountain and have fresh fruit and things like that, yes.
So it's easy.
Yes.
Everybody would do it.
But how do we move the needle? So if you got a pastor out there, let's look at moving the needle in a couple ways. When people are coming in and talking to us, what should we be looking for? As far as, they're saying that everything is good spiritually, they're still struggling, that maybe they need to look at some kind of other intervention in the sense of physical. What should we be looking for?
I think most pastors are aware, as medical providers are aware, we literally say the first rule in medicine is patients lie. The first rule in medicine, they're lying. They're lying. So, number one, they don't typically want to tell you that they're taking medication. So pastors need to know that, I want to say now it's 1 in 4 women are on some form of an antidepressant, whether it's a daily or an as needed antidepressant or anti-anxiolytic. They need to know that supplements, if a pastor says, are you taking any medication? No, not really. But they're taking, let's say CBD, THC. They don't count that as medication that's helping them sleep. So really trying to, are there any chemicals that you are putting inside you to either help you sleep, help you get up, or help you stabilize your mood?
So that right there is a game changer, because in the Greek, and in the Greek, one of the words for sorcery is pharmakeia. That's where we get the term pharmacy, pharmacology. We're seeing that, my wife and I and others, as we're counseling. That's one of the things we've tried to be gentle about. So you don't have to tell us, but we want to be able to help you. Are you taking any kind of medication, any supplements, any psychiatric medication?
Right. And I think because depression and anxiety has become so ubiquitous at this point, it seems a little easier for people to say that they're taking something. But even if somebody says no, there's still a possibility that they're doing something. Uh-huh. So that's one thing. Sleep is a huge thing. Are you... Oh, I'm the type of person, I only need like 4 hours a night. That is not a thing. But okay, your body is able to maybe compensate for that, but does that make you run optimally? No.
We've even been maybe even you've been doing this. My wife has been doing this because she is really into the sleep.
Sleep too.
Things, right? So she's been, she'll ask, when do you go to bed? I'll say, I go to bed around 9:30, 10. Okay. When do you go to sleep?
Yes.
Oh, around midnight.
Right.
What time do you get up? 6.
Right. And when you get down into, deep sleep science, of course you're talking about now REM. So you'll have somebody, and I've said this, I could drink a cup of coffee and go straight to bed, no problem. And you might be asleep the whole time. But if you were to put an EEG on your head and monitor your brain waves, you never get down into REM sleep Or if you do, you are quickly bumped out of it. You are in and out all night. So that restorative at a cellular level, that restorative sleep, you're not getting. So even if you tell me, well, I sleep about 8 hours. Okay, when are you stopping your caffeine intake? When are you stopping your screen time? Those things matter. You might be asleep, but not in deep sleep.
See, and if you're in ministry right now, if you're watching, you're probably thinking, is this Bible? It is. The Bible clearly says that sleep is a gift from the Lord in the book of Psalms. The Bible clearly talks about the chemical being put into your body, altering your body. So two big red flags we're looking for is obviously medication, sleep.
And if you look at them and they are obese, there is a metabolic problem. At a cellular level, there is a problem with not only how their heart is doing, how their kidneys are doing. You cannot separate that. Now their brain is not functioning appropriately either. So yes, you've got gout, and that can show up as holy buckets. My toe is huge and red and super painful. And that's a quick way of saying you've got a metabolic problem. But when somebody says, I'm just depressed all the time, I really don't have a reason to be. Nobody died. My kids are fine, but I can't bring myself out of this mood. That is a red flag. That is not an SSRI problem. It's not a serotonin problem. Most of your serotonin is in your gut anyway. That person's brain is literally having a problem with trying to function at a normal level. So if they are obese, they cannot have a proper mental, emotional health state.
I just read the other day, the whole concept of the serotonin uptake inhibitors and everything, that has now become, there's major
It's
studies.
blown wide open. Yeah.
Missed it. But I was reading in my nutrition studies that the majority of your serotonin, as you just mentioned, is in your gut. Now, there was a byline in there that said that the serotonin in the gut doesn't necessarily communicate with the serotonin or have anything to do with what's going on in the brain.
Well, so now that doesn't make sense, because if you are nervous about an interview or you're nervous about a test and you're like, dude, I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, I'll be right back. Okay, well, you didn't eat anything different, but your brain is sending a signal that we are under stress.
And in the Bible, it talks about bowels of mercy, about that connectivity. When you fall in love, you get that feeling in your stomach, you're scared, you get that feeling in your stomach.
Right.
Well, my question immediately was, I'm like, man, are we prescribing people medication for a mental serotonin issue when we should be taking the Oreo out of their hand and putting an apple in it so that it goes well?
Yeah.
And obese doesn't necessarily mean, another thing I'm learning a lot about is just body composition. I think we become too fixated on the scale. I have a friend of mine who struggles with diabetes. He said to me the other day, he's like, I've lost about 10 pounds. And I thought in my mind, that's good, but it could not be good. When you're losing muscle mass.
Right.
And
what are you losing? How fast are you losing it?
It's your body composition. And that's what happens. I think I know I've played tennis and done high level athletics. You can drop 5 pounds of water.
No.
Really
quickly. Yeah.
And I think what happens is people are looking at the scale. They're doing hack diets, hack thing. I was doing it. Let me say it like that. 1 week I'm 5 pounds down. I'm in great shape. No, I just happen to hit it, a little bit of extra shrimp, a little bit of extra, and maybe it was a little bit dehydrated, and it's not really truly changing the body composition, because as we've been talking about the whole time, it's not hitting at the cellular level.
It takes time to do that. It takes time to take a damaged cell and either fix that cell, or for that cell to be destroyed by the body, a new one come in, and it hopefully not be destroyed by what you're eating and putting in you. So it takes time.
I saw an article this morning. It said that gym membership, gym equipment, exercise, all of that genre is at its highest that it has ever been, and it has not touched the obesity rate.
It's not going to. It won't.
Nutrition issue.
Yeah, it's you can out eat anything you do.
Yeah.
far easier to just not eat 100 calories of an Oreo than to try to burn that off. And it's not, to go back to what you said about calories, it's not just, I ingested too many calories. It's you ingested pure toxins, nothing but addictive chemicals made in a lab, made specifically to penetrate your blood-brain barrier. And there's a reason you have one, made specifically to bypass that blood-brain barrier to tell you to eat another one, eat another one, eat another one. And it bypasses your hormones like leptin that tells your body, stop eating, I'm full.
So my wife was telling me the other day about a situation where some of the smoking cigarette companies.
Oh yes, big tobacco.
Yeah.
Straight over to big food.
Big food designed the food to be addictive.
Yes. And that's very well known. I mean, that's not a...
We're not Alex Jonesing.
No, that's... Now, people may not know that big tobacco went over to big food, but it is, at least in my world, very clearly known that the additives that are put in foods are to make them delectable and to make you want more and more and more of them.
Yeah.
And to that point, most everybody has been laying in bed, knows there's a cupcake in the cupboard, and is like, don't eat it, don't eat it, don't eat it, I'm gonna go eat it. You can't stop thinking about it. Okay, that's...
Then you feel guilty.
Of course you do.
It is an addict.
It is. Cigarette smokers know that feeling. They be so quick anyway. So it is known that they put those food additives in there to make it more addictive, which is why if somebody puts a 20-ounce steak in front of you, you get 8-10 ounces in, and you're like, I cannot eat another bite. But you can eat an entire bag of Doritos with no problem and still be hungry.
Yes.
Well, so why is that? Well, because the food that's in Doritos, which is not food, bypasses all of your body's satiety signals. These are hormone signals that tell you to stop eating. So not only does it bypass stop eating, but it then spurs on eat more. You want more. This is really good. Eat more. I mean, it's done on purpose. And many of those chemicals in food additives are 100% illegal and banned in Europe and 100% FDA approved here. And they're called, generally regarded as safe. That's kind of the byline. Generally regarded as safe. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe if I eat one Dorito, I'm not going to see a whole lot of problems. But when from childhood through middle adulthood, 80% of your diet is based on something that came out of a bag that's been ultra processed. Well, now all of a sudden, it's only 0.0001% of that food. Okay, but you have done that with every piece of food that you've eaten for decades at a time. And that's the answer that we've not gotten to in terms of the FDA deciding these things have got to be taken out of our food. I think we're close. I think there's some states actually that are changing food laws and saying, the biggest one is red dye 40, highly linked to ADHD in children, emotional behavioral issues in children when they're removed from their diets. Wow, all of a sudden you're really difficult to deal with. Johnny is less difficult to deal with. Still needs a spanking, but is less difficult to deal with. So all of these additives, all of these things, pastors are having to then sit down with people and try to give them a biblical answer for? No. You need both.
Well, the biblical answer is stewardship.
Yeah.
Stewardship of the body, right? We're gonna change gears. We're gonna go for a walk for just a moment, because what I wanna know now is, okay, for the pastors out there that are struggling with their health, what are they leaving on the table by not taking this stewardship seriously? What are they leaving on the table? Let's go for a walk across the campus and talk about that. All right, Doc, we've talked about a lot of things. Let's talk about the little big church pastor. Doesn't have a big budget, can't afford a personal trainer. There's a lot of challenges that we face in small churches. We're not the mega church pastor that can spend 2 hours in the gym every day. But if we don't take care of ourselves, what are we leaving on the table?
I think about in the Bible, when the Lord calls pastors, a shepherd, feed my sheep. And I can't imagine David as a shepherd being overweight, unable to chase off the wolves, the bears, being lazy. I mean, clearly you have to be not only optimal mentally, I got to be focused, but physically, I have to be able to care for my sheep. If you are miserable all the time, whether it's I don't sleep good as a pastor, I'm not able to get up and go and do things. They want me to, go see somebody in the hospital. I'm already exhausted by the time I get up there.
Yes.
You are already running on half, if not quarter tank. And somebody else whose soul is dependent a lot of times on things that you have to say is now coming to you and saying, I need you to step up for me. I can't step up for you. I got nothing in my tank. So keep it simple, stupid. You don't have to have a 2-hour-long session with a personal trainer all the time.
Right.
You don't have to eat organic, all the time. You don't have to make huge life changes to make such a difference and an impact in your own ministry to your people. So if your people see you, I'm going to pass on the desserts. You know what? I actually ate before we came. I wanted to make sure I, felt good when I got here.
Right.
Those little things start making a difference to them because they see you as the example. So if the example that you're setting is, man, I don't want to be the fat pastor.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the person that you lovingly dump chocolate and Peeps on all the time.
Right.
I want to be the person that when you look at me, you see my children, so you want my parental advice. You see my marriage, so you want my marital advice. And you see me as a man, and you want to know, well, how are you physically taking care of yourself? You've lost 50 pounds. You've done that over like a year and a half. You're pushing 2 years of being on this train. What are you doing different?
Right.
So they're more apt then to listen to you. Nobody wants to listen to a fat dietitian talking about how you should and shouldn't be eating.
Right.
So if we know, and we do, we really know for a fact that what you're eating, what you're putting in your body is going to affect your mental and spiritual health. It is. Then you as the pastor need to be the one to not only say it, but do it.
Well, that's so true because Paul told Timothy to be an example. And the truth of the matter is that I think a lot of pastors are leaving a lot on the table that they could be doing in that area. And I think we're stressed. We're pushed in a lot of ways. We don't realize how much it's affecting our body and our body is affecting us. And like you said, we can move the needle a little bit in different ways.
Absolutely. Even if it's just, I'm going to pick a category of things to cut out. I'm not going to do desserts at church anymore.
Yeah.
That is a great first step. Just sugar in general. I'm just going to cut that stuff out.
Yeah.
And then take another step. Okay. Instead of, hey, every day we tend to eat from a bag, I'm going to get some steaks. I'm going to get some chicken. They don't have to be fancy steaks. Marinate them and beat them to death.
Right.
They'll cook good.
Right.
I'm going to pick one meal a day that's just nothing processed in it. Make a journey out of it because if I go to you as my pastor and I say, this is a problem that I'm having, you do not expect me to fix it in 72 hours. You expect what I'm telling her is going to take time and a journey, and she's going to implement little bits of it along the way, but eventually she'll come to where she needs to be. And it's the same thing for a pastor. If you come to me as your provider and you say, I'm obese, I don't feel good, I'm tired all the time, I don't really know what to do, I'm going to say, take one step at a time. Cut out the sugar, then cut out the processed, add in a little bit of walking. No gym membership, no personal records on I'm squatting, whatever. Go for a walk and start there. And then let's check back in a month. Let's do some blood work and see, wow, in a month, you've taken your A1C or whatever metabolic marker you want to pick. Right. You've made a huge change in it. Yeah, and actually I feel good too. So this is working.
I'm going to say that one of the things, and it surprised me, one of the things that has changed is the joy. I'm enjoying ministry a lot more because I feel better. I'm able to recover quicker from the preaching. People can take a toll on you emotionally, spiritually, but I'm stronger. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think there's a real battle with a lot of pastors out there of self-confidence. It's one of those rare fields where you take a beating. If you do really good, you can't go, I did really good today. You can't do it. You're prideful.
Yeah.
If you do really bad, you feel like you do that all the time anyway. And so pastors struggle with a lot of self-confidence issues. That's a statistical truth in the data. It makes you feel a little bit better, feel better about yourself, and I don't think that that's a bad thing.
It's not an ego thing. To that point, there's a reason that a good doctor will tell somebody long before they put them on medication, show me that you're doing regular exercise. Then we can talk about next steps. That exercise is not to be egocentric. It's not so you can look at yourself in the mirror. It's because you're literally feeding your brain neurotransmitters that are uppers that make you feel better. And that's not ego.
And when we're talking about nutrition, we're not talking about you fill in the blank, whatever the fad diet. We're talking about nutrition. Understanding
simple,
what
whole
nutrition.
Yes. If it came from a tree, if you can fish it out of a lake, if you can shoot it in the woods, eat it.
Yeah.
If it comes in a box that says Kellogg's and is numerous different colors. I've never seen a Fruit Loop tree, although I would love to, but I've never seen a Fruit Loop, Fruity Pebbles, never seen a tree. And if it says fortified, well, it's fortified because it had nothing nutritional in it to begin with. So they got to dump a bunch of chemicals in it. So keep it simple, stupid. Keep it grown out of a tree, grown out of the ground, pulled out of the river, shot in woods. That's what you need to be eating. Yeah. And don't focus on macros. Macros come later. That comes, you're getting way too deep into the woods and plug your ears when somebody comes to you and says, well, I've been doing carnivore. I said, well, I've been doing, vegan, and that's really where it's all I'm doing is eating food. That should not be a complicated science.
You told me a long time ago to be a food connoisseur.
Mm-hmm.
What did you mean by that when you said that?
Yeah, to know what you're eating and what's in what you're eating, to know how is this helping me. So if I'm going to eat a sweet potato, this person on YouTube said, oh, a sweet potato is better than a white potato. Well, how do you know? Go look at the nutrients on there and see, what am I eating?
Right.
Is this helpful to me? Do I need this? And for most people, sugars, fats, proteins, those things are pretty ubiquitous in the general public of understanding, but don't get down into the grams. And if the first ingredient is high fructose corn syrup,
it's a wrap.
Don't eat that. That's absolute garbage. So again, know what you're eating and why you're eating it. How does this help my body? And that's a journey too, but keep it simple. Why is meat good for me? Why are these vegetables good for me? What am I fueling? What is it doing to me? Be a food connoisseur. The American culture has destroyed our bodies because we think of food as social. Mm-hmm. We think of food as this is an enjoyable part of my day. Food is fuel. That's it. It is meant to sustain your life, not be the center of your life.
Yes, yeah.
So eat what fuels you and then stop eating.
Yes. Well, I think to come back full circle when we're talking about the little big church, that's what's happened. We're late to the party, but we are seeing these problems in our social families, that's seeing these problems in our churches, we're seeing these problems with our teenagers, our young people, our marriages. They're not immune to it. Just because we're reading the Bible, praying, coming to church, these things, and I don't want to belittle those things. Anybody who knows that, the priority. But I think you can be doing those things and then your health is out of whack and you're going to still see some problems like we talked about. So what we're really talking about is the stewardship. The stewardship of the spirit, yes. Stewardship of your soul, your emotions, our marital relationship, yes. But a stewardship of your body. And what's weird is that they're not weird, but I think where I'm coming through in this space of understanding is that your body, I've always known your spirit can affect the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I am more of a believer now today than I ever have that your body can affect the soul and spirit.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it. And I think a lot of problems, my wife and I have talked about this a lot of problems we're running across. We've started with read your Bible and pray more. But these are people coming to us that are. Now, people lie, I understand that. But, no, I'm doing that. Why am I still not having peace? Why am I still unhappy? But you can look at them and now becoming aware.
Your blinders are removed.
Yeah.
And you can see the blinders that they have on.
Working in the nutrition field now, I'm sitting there and I'm making some analysis like we talked about. Medication, your diet, your sleep, your exercise, these kind of things. And it's like, that could be the potential there. So I think for pastors, there's a lot in this to listen to and re-listen to. Of course, we're always available for them to reach out to us as far as resources to be able to help and point them in the right direction. But I think if we can prime the pump and get thinking about this in a different way, not just, hey, I want to lose weight, you just work out, but that this really does have a spiritual, total Christian component. The whole person makes a huge difference. Doc,
yeah.
We are right here at Ground Central, and probably a lot of what we say they didn't like, but nevertheless.
And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved, blessed,